All right, we have a mechanical breakdown analysis today. My name is Coach Cam. I'm from Pineville, Louisiana, located at Seminole Baseball Softball Academy. If you want something like this, hit me up. This will help you become a better overall thrower as a ball player. This individual right here is an outfielder. I do pitchers, infielders, catchers as well. Primarily pitchers is what I have most people send me in. But that being said, let's break down this outfielder's throw here today. So as he goes and begins to start throwing, I noticed that he lacks basically counter rotation or torsion, whatever you want to call it, in the back part of the leg here, which is twisting everything this way. And I think a lot of it has to deal with mobility, probably lacking some ER mobility. Obviously, he'd have to get an eval for me to know for sure, but just glancing off of this, and I've watched this a few times, definitely lacking ER mobility, so definitely doing some ER stretches for the hip would help out tremendously. The next thing is this. As we begin to throw here, I noticed that this chest it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but it's leaning over our hip, like forward. We need to have this actually pushing back up and being more tall and stacked. When we begin to basically push our chest over our hip and lean over our body, it's actually going to limit the ability for us to actually go and rotate our hips through. So due to that, right, and probably because he lacks some mobility as well, he's going to have to take this front glove and front leg to rotate this back hip and hip all the way through in general. And as we continue to go, we actually see that, see front glove, front leg. They're the rotators of the body, not the back leg. And it all begins with the fact of not being able to build torsion in that back leg and having that chest over our hip. So if we can pull the chest back and be more tall and stacked, that'd be great. Another thing, too, I want to point out, too, as well. A lot of people don't talk about this. When your front toe, I'm not saying at the very end, at the very beginning, is leading, instead of it either being flat to where it's like this, or the heel is leading, this will also cause us to want to go and use that front leg to rotate because the toe is going to want to go and pull into land rather than using the back leg to drive, which flips the front hip to land. Another thing I want to point out too as well, I think something that he would benefit from, this is not for everybody, is instead of having our glove down here as we see, I think if he pulls it here, it will help bring some counter rotation for this trunk to rotate against the hips. And it'll also delay that glove from basically going and pulling underneath early. Okay. Now, at front foot strike here, now obviously he's throwing upwards for like a long toss throw in general. So obviously he's going to be more upward angled like this, which for this scenario would be fine. But if you're doing within probably 90 feet, you probably need to have more of this angle, maybe a slightly upward curve, nothing too crazy, probably like that at most. But as we see here when he lands, his hips are still facing me. We need these hips to be completely forward. This foot completely forward, this knee completely forward, and he's not there. Now, I'm going to push it on a little bit further through to show you. This is where his hips, knee, and ankle should all be right now at front foot strike. But the issue is he is right there at front foot strike. So he's got a long ways to go with mobility. So he's probably lacking some trunk rotation, probably also lacking hip abduction. Obviously, I talked about the hip ER. Also probably lacking hip IR as well, which is internal rotation. Now, as we continue to go on here, let me look at a couple different things. So we see a one-piece thrower, which basically means this. If we take this arm, the hip, the knee, and the ankle, now watch this. They are all basically moving together. See how they all move together? This right here is a one-piece thrower. With one-piece throwers, you're going to typically see, in my opinion, and based upon science too as well, higher risk of injury, but definitely slower velocity. And you see they can still continue to move together. So we need definitely some mobility work here for sure. Another thing too as well, Even though this arm's in a decent position with being close to 90 degrees and roughly, if you were to go and take this at a 60-foot throw, probably his elbow and shoulder probably going to be in a straight line. I noticed that the way he tries to get his arm to flip through, he's kind of basically pushing his arm outside of 90 rather than letting it flip behind his head. And what happens is we end up getting basically a pushy elbow here, which is also probably from ability too as well. And so due to this, he's probably going to experience elbow, bicep pain, and possibly even shoulder pain. So if we can go and get that cleaned up to where basically this arm is flipping behind here, and if you notice, it just kind of pushes straight back like that. And that's not the action that we want. But it could be a lot of mobility issues, but also I see a lot of the time with one-piece throwers, they kind of have a hard time letting the arm whip back behind the head because it's usually a range of motion issue. However, let's continue to go on and look at the rest of these things. I will say this, one thing he does okay is the front foot is kind of closed off. If we can have this to where the front foot is probably about 3-4 inches across the body. That way he's landing a slightly closed off completely. That might help out with the lead leg block. But I think that a lot of the reason why he doesn't do it, or his body doesn't want him to do it, is because he lacks mobility. He knows his hips have to get through. And so landing more open will give his hips a chance to push through more, but it's not a good fix. This is a fix to help where he's currently at. Down the road, we want to have where we're landing slightly across and closed off. Another thing, too, I want to point out as well, so whenever he lands, we don't want this knee or hip or foot to move forward. And if you notice here, they continue to move forward, and there's no initial push back with the leg straightening out or at least staying stable. So overall, right, lots of mobility that we need to fix. However, though, one thing I will say, he has a good base structure in terms of this position here. It's just getting ourselves to separate, getting more mobility, getting more limber. Those are the things that will get that. Overall, if you can just fix the glove to where it works up higher at the start for this guy in general, land a hair more across, and let the arm flip inside, at that point, it's just feeling hip and shoulder separation, feeling triple extension, and just getting more limber. So, all that being said, if you have any questions, put it down in the comment section down below. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you're wanting something like this and possibly things to help you fix it, just reach out to me. The link is in the bio. And if you have any other questions, let me know.